Yeah, okay.
Sorry. Nice and close.
Video and speakers, okay. All right, here we go. I'm Chuck Swanson, I'm the guy in the back. We're gonna go around and say your name.
Hi, I'm Melissa Lowe.
I'm Patricia Wick.
I'm Kathy Peregrino. This is my sister.
I'm Lisa Wolf.
I'm Marge Hoffman.
And two of our people are missing. Megan was ill today,
Sophie
And-
did come down.
and Sophie is in Chisholm. Now, I would like one of you, not me, one of you, to introduce the lady, the young woman who's at the end of the table on the picture.
Oh, Valeria. Whoops, sorry.
Okay, the young lady at the table, I don't know, will this hold me? Is this a stage?
Yes.
Okay. This young lady here is Valeria, who is Pastor Karen's youngest daughter. Her son Diego, you will see a little bit later, and her older daughter, Karen Sophia, is the one who delivered a baby 7 weeks early on the day we arrived, and who was Pastor Karen's primary concern, or one of her primary concerns. She and her family graciously spent all this time with us, translating and explaining and welcoming and herding us cats around, while her daughter and her very new, very sick grandson were in the hospital, and they were just, the baby was just released within the last 2 weeks. So they were fabulous people. And Valeria is a college student. She had just finished her first semester of college. How'd I do, Chuck?
Good. What you'll know, if you don't know already, ELOG, the Iglesia Luterana Agustina de Guatemala, in other words, the Lutheran Church of Guatemala, is a family affair. Many of the people who are leaders in that movement are in the same family, including Pastor Karen, who is the president of the ELOG. So I'm going to start with this, because this is the current situation in Guatemala. And you've heard about this already. Today, this very day, the president-elect is taking office. Now, this is an issue because when he won the election, there were people in the country who wanted to deny that process and to prevent him from becoming president. These are anti-democratic people. And so in October, there were demonstrations because people were afraid that he would not be allowed to become president. And there were, well, as we understand it, peaceful demonstrations, which included closing down roads. And so while we were preparing to leave the day after Thanksgiving, there was still some question in our minds whether our trip would be canceled because of the political unrest. Well, it turned out things calmed down a little bit and we were able to go. But anyway, it's still a question. So today we're hoping that things go smoothly for the country of Guatemala. We already heard about Pastor Karen's grandson, so we're concerned about that. And now, and you'll hear these things as we make our presentations. The rural ELOG communities are all dealing with crop loss because of bad weather. And this will be a continuing thing. I'm thinking much of what we'll hear today, it was our experience, is going to be wonderful, beautiful, joyful. But these people are living through difficult times too. So we keep that in mind. And we'll see some of that in this presentation. All right, so we arrived on a Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. This is the street by the Lutheran Center, which is a suburb of Guatemala. It's not the nicest neighborhood. It's a walled facility. You could see the dome of the church in the back. And this is our transportation for the week. And you'll see many times Estuardo, who is the driver of the van, but much more than that. He's one of the leaders of the ELOG, of the delegation. He's just a wonderful, wonderful person. So these are just some pictures of the Lutheran Center inside. Any comments from the people here and that are watching?
You mean like us?
Yes.
It was such a contrast to, do I need to use those?
I don't know if you.
I think
Yeah.
for the recording.
Yes.
So the interior, inside of that fence was such a contrast to the exterior. You saw how bleak it looked on the exterior, except it was a lot warmer. That was not bleak. But inside, the flowers, the flowering bushes, everything was beautiful. This was taken from, I think, the 3rd floor, which is the highest floor, and maybe there'll be more pictures of
I
the
think so,
structure. And it was a gorgeous view. It was just beautiful on the inside and so friendly.
Again, the contrast that you were mentioning, because when you're up on the roof here and looking out, you can look one way towards Antigua and see the volcanoes, and you can look down into the courtyard of the Lutheran Center, and like Melissa said, all this flowers and vegetation. And then you can also look out at the city and you can see, structures that are half-built and barbed wire, and just people living in very poor conditions.
You can also see the golden arches of the McDonald's. Okay, so on Saturday, we had to make a trip up north. Guatemala City is in the southern part of the country. We had to go up north to get near Santa Elena. So we spent the day driving up north, and we had lunch at a very nice place. This is Sophie. Okay, you're on video, so does the horse have a name?
I don't know.
Why did you give him a name?
Billy.
Huh?
The horse's name is Billy.
Billy? Billy the horse. Well, great. We're at La Granja. It's a cafe and a park. La Granja is the farm. It was a very nice restaurant. We had a lot of nice restaurants that we ate at. And in the restaurant, it was Christmas. It was Christmas all over Guatemala. And we saw lots of decorations.
We felt very at home here.
So the next day then, this is in a town called Chisek. This is where we're staying. And this is very near the villages we were going to. This was a very different experience. Oh, we went to a town called Playa Grande, which is about 20 minutes away from Santa Elena. Oh, I said talk about the name of the village. It's Santa Elena, 20th of October. In Spanish, Santa Elena, 20 de Octubre. Why is there a name, why is there a date in the name of the village? Does anybody remember? Anybody who has been to Guatemala remember?
There was a conflict that day, right?
It's the date of Santa Elena's death, when she was killed. Santa Elena, this woman named Elena from the village was a martyr in the Civil War, which ended in 1997. So several of the towns have dates in their name. So this is Santa Elena, 20 de Octubre. If you Google Santa Elena, you won't get our village.
But if you do Google 20 de Octubre, the 20th of October, it will show up in a different place. And it shocked me because when we went into the village is so small that here, I don't even know if you would call it a town. You might call it a township or something like that. But if you do 20th of October, then you can see where it's located separate from Santa Elena, the town.
Okay, so in this picture, there's our group. On the far left is Diego. And then there's Pastor Karen. Diego is Pastor Karen's son. Diego is the person who leads delegations, makes all the arrangements, does or a lot of the translation, and is just an all-around wonderful person to be involved with. So these are some of the blessings, is being with people like that. So this was different. Our first visit was not straight to Santa Elena, but to this town, or to a little community near Playa Grande. And this is a new church that's part of the ELOG. And the name of the church is Maya Luz y Vida. Maya, light and life. And we ask, why would a Lutheran church keep the name Maya? Well, it's part of their heritage, and they wanted to keep that name. So think about that, I guess. But this church did not have any, it's new with ELOG, it did not have a partnership with any congregation in the United States. So Pastor Karen wanted us to go be a delegation, visit them, so that they knew what it was like to have a delegation.
And they're waiting for a partner church too.
Okay, yeah, they're waiting, okay? So,
No, que somos mensajeros, predicando el evangelio.
okay, you didn't get to hear much. These are children who are having their first communion. And they make a big deal out of it. And the same thing will happen at Santa Elena. So we were part of the worship service there.
That song, by the way, is welcoming us. It's saying, welcome, brothers and sisters in Christ.
Yes, yes. So we participated. Oh, I know. We did here what you just did today. Sang Silent Night. We did that as part of the service. And so they did these other things, the First Communion and all that. Okay, so we arrived at Santa Elena. This is our church. You saw pictures of that before. And they welcomed us. We have arrived. They're greeting us. We're going to go to church right away.
Bienvenidos, bienvenidas, sientan con nosotros, saltemos, caminemos, así los visitantes, que hoy es su presencia, en este día tan especial.
Okay, so that was the first of several welcoming dances. The first of several welcoming dances for us. Now, this is the first, what we saw when we first entered the church. Some of you have been there before and it's familiar to you, and you may notice some different things, like green lit Christmas trees on the front. What you see on the floor are petals, because there's going to be a wedding, among other things. And the balloons up on the left, there's white balloons. That's going to be for the wedding couple. And then, well, the other is just decorating for other events, right? First Communion. Baptisms, yeah.
Us being there.
Pardon?
Us being
Oh,
there.
us,
It was a
yes. The
celebration.
balloons are for us, I guess, too. So, this is our first introduction. Oh. Okay, so that was our welcoming dance. Now, you gotta hear the music. I won't subject you to too much. They like their music loud.
So one thing I have to add to this. So this was live music. There was a guitar, a bass, and a keyboard. Just 3?
Yes.
And
Yes.
boy, they were all belting it out at the top of their voices because they have one volume and it's loud. And this was the same band that was at the little tiny church, the new church, that we were at in the morning. So it was the same people, and they're like this, they have 2 gigs in one day, I think. And it was loud, and it was loud, and the church service was 3 hours, and every song they sang, and there were lots of them, was the same volume and the same beat.
Yes, I wanted them to play a waltz 3-4 times, but they don't know 3-4 times. Okay, we're going to hear them again too, though. Okay. The guy can play something other than his regular song. And the man that walked in with the wedding couple, that's Estuardo. He does a lot of things in the community, in Elam, but also in the community. So he was sort of like the best man, I guess, for the wedding. So that was the beginning of the service. I won't play much of this. Incidentally, the pastor behind Karen is Pastor Santos. He serves as a pastor for several of the Elog churches in that area. So he's not exclusively at Santa Elena. So we participated, several people in our group participated in the church. You've seen these slides before. So that's always a nice thing to do. And there were several things going on. There was the First Communion, baptisms too, and then there's the wedding. So it took a long time. It's interesting, but it's a very meaningful experience being part of it. Any questions or comments so far?
So the baptism, the wedding, and the First Communion were all in the same service?
Yeah, it just took 2 hours.
It was closer to 3 hours.
Yeah, and the interesting thing,
I was just going to say, I think that they do it that way because it's kind of a big deal when Pastor Karen arrives. They do have Pastor Santos who serves that community, but to have Pastor Karen, the president from the synod there, arrive, then it's kind of a big deal. And then we were there as well. So then they try to pack like all the celebration into one day.
And that was at both churches, not just
So,
where you see it.
so what's a regular Sunday like? Do you have any idea?
no, I don't think we do. I don't think we do. They do have a man whom you will see often in these videos or in this presentation, Antonio. He has been commissioned as the person who can do Holy Communion.
That was last time we were there.
We were yes, he was commissioned then, and he was he's the lead singer on these songs too. And we're going to visit his home in a few minutes. And the friends he lives with. That's a hit coming up. Anyway, yeah, these services when we're there have always been really big deals. But I like to think of them, people ask what's worship like that. Compared to our services, aside from the music, the church services there are what I would call high church. They're much more into the liturgy and the church experience. For example, they use incense. There's incense burning during the service. And they always do 3 lessons, not 2. And their sermons her sermon was pretty short this time, but they can be long too. So they really know how to do church. They're influenced by the Lutherans now. They're influenced by the Catholics. They're influenced by the Maya. So, in some ways. So it's a very rich experience.
And just for context, sorry, I keep leaping up. For context, Diego told me that about 90% of Guatemala is Catholic and practicing Catholic. And that's the history of religion since the Spaniards arrived. By contrast, how much do you think is Lutheran? What percent? 1.
Well, I thought it was 97 and 3, but.
And I checked out some stats online just to be sure I had it right. And some of the estimates are closer to 0.5% Lutheran.
There's an evangelical community too. A Pentecostal movement, so yes. Okay, this is what I talked about during the sermon, but I'm going to show you this minute-long, or a little bit more than a minute-long video, because this is the signing of the covenant, which I think is very meaningful. Complete with crying babies.
You see a lot of people coming up to sign the covenant, but not everybody did. And my understanding of it is that a lot of people there cannot write. And sometimes in the past, they've signed their name with a fingerprint. But they said, like, this was a big deal to them to have this partnership and covenant with us. And so the people who could not write didn't want to kind of mess it up by putting a fingerprint on there. I think they felt maybe a little ashamed that they weren't able to write their name, and so they didn't sign it. So it was just kind of an interesting piece.
Oh, These are our signatures. Do we have their
Ours
signatures?
is on the left, theirs are on the right.
Oh, okay, I see.
And I printed the pages of signatures on back to back because there were so many pages.
Okay, yeah, so here, have a look at it afterwards. Yeah, they're on this different columns, so that's good. We're right
Yeah, the
together.
first three pages
Okay, I'll pass it
are,
around.
the first 3 pages or so are the covenant, and then following that with the pastor's signature and some of the other people from both here and there. I think Santos and Antonio were signers, and you signed it, didn't you, Chuck? No, here pastor, both pastors signed it, and then the back part I ran back to back, as I said, of their signatures. Theirs are on the right. And probably most of you will find your name on the left column of members from here.
And it wasn't just that they signed it, they explained it, and they asked people if they wanted to sign it. So they said, this is what it's been, do you want to continue the covenant? So it was a definite yes, there was no hesitation, there was no, well, maybe not. But it was, kind of like Lisa said, it was extremely important to people. They value it a lot.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was on a Sunday, and that Sunday was taken up mostly with worship. So it was on Monday when we went back to the village to do various activities with the people. And so this is just showing us getting off the bus and being warmly greeted with lots of hugs as we arrived back for the second day. And of course, they greeted us with a dance. Okay, and that went on for a while, but it was really very well done. So here we have story time. There's Kathy reading the story. Any comments on that? Anybody? It was a really wonderful thing. Oh, here's one. There were a lot of kids there. Some of them are members of our church. A bunch are not. They're kids from the village. But they know when their friends are having a good time. And they want to have a good time too. And of course, what do we say? All are welcome, right? So it's really kind of fun to see all the kids there. And very engaged in what we were doing.
So, Chuck, so you mentioned that 1% of the population is Lutheran. What about in this village?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know the percentages. Right next to our church building is a small church, which is the Catholic Church. Never seen anybody there. I don't think it's really active.
There's also a Pentecostal church in the village, right?
There's a Pentecostal church in the village too.
So a couple of things. The reading beforehand was an activity or just telling the Christmas story before they did their activity. And then we would show the pictures. Lisa brought the Bible, or the children's Bible, which had one side in English and the other in Spanish. So it made it really easy to read. And then the other thing that I was going to say is when you talk about the other churches, at some point during the long service, there were big booms, big firecrackers going on, and it was like, it's just like, where is that coming from? And I think, I heard a couple of people jesting that, maybe it was the competing church. No, they didn't say competing church, they said it's the Catholics.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, yeah, so now this is the beginning of the family activity. You heard about that during the service, the building of the little manger scenes, the creches. So here we are working hard at helping the families build their creches. It was a long activity, but people were really engaged in doing it, so.
Chuck, I've got,
Okay, this is a short little video.
Chuck?
I've got that, roll of women at Santa Elena, which kind of fits in with a couple other things.
Maybe that's the comment she wants to make.
Okay, we're coming to the women's Bible study in a minute.
Yeah, okay, well, that can fit in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a men's Bible study, it's a small group, this is on Monday. One of the things that happened on this trip, we were only in the village for 2 days. In all of our other trips, we were there for 3 days, which meant we had more time to do activities. But part of the 2-day visit was because of the hardships that these villagers have encountered, especially with loss of crops. So a number of the men had to go get jobs in the nearby village, nearby city. And so there were fewer people around on a Monday to be with us. And it was also just more difficult for the families to host a delegation than in previous years. Anyway, so we had a men's Bible study. I'll show you this. And the person reading the lesson from Isaiah, this was an Advent study, is Pastor Santos, and he's reading it in Quechua, which is the local Mayan dialect.
Kama kui di sain joleting sa spelling ni kolom salikutan nak nekes eki chidiship libioma sbanak sekisiye chinumil shakolep chiru litzum linarahop tesi ushasal shkwakilep linekenutang sa spelling ko kabalu chaklehet latmadian.
Okay? So yeah, that was nice. And then, it wasn't exactly the same time, but there was a women's Bible study. Should I show this first and then you?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's show
Because I
this.
have about the role of women.
Talk about the ways that women are for women in the Bible. Women here and women in Minnesota. How we are all the same. And as you're listening, think about something that you entonces dice que ella lo que quiere es enseñarles o compartir con ustedes hablar acerca de mujeres en la Biblia. Como las mujeres en Guatemala y las mujeres en los Estados Unidos tenemos los mismos retos. Y quiero que ustedes...
Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm going to share about the role of women in Santa Elena, but before I do that, it kind of fits in with, most of you noticed the cover of the bulletin today. This fits in with, this is actually Antonio's daughter, I believe.
No, Pastor Santos's daughter.
Oh, it was there, okay, because I thought we were at Antonio's.
We were at Antonio's house.
And that's Pastor Santos' daughter, okay. She was one of the people that helped us. And for the Kumanando Untos, which is the newsletter that the Synod puts out, it's about the partnership between ELOG and our partner churches. Kumanando Untos means walking together. And I'm going to just share a couple of things that I wrote for the article. and this was the cover picture that went with it. I based it on the verse from John 13:34. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also should love one another. And that was kind of the preface of the article I wrote. There's just a couple of things here that I want to share from this. Because of my age and some issues with my knees, I used a cane during our visit. I'm usually very independent, but found myself needing help with some mobility issues, which I received from our delegation, the ELOG staff, the people at our partner church, and the nearby church also that we went to, and from people we met while traveling in Guatemala. We mentioned Diego, who was with us, and the steps on the bus were very high. I'm very short, and that bottom step was probably about where my knees would be. So after having trouble a couple of times getting in and out of it, Diego got one of those concrete blocks that I use for building, and so it made 4 steps for me. They put it on the ground, and I'd use that to step to the first step, then I'd move over and they'd put the concrete block on that second step, and I'd use that then to get up to the level where the seats were. It was very, very helpful and appreciated. And Pastor Karen said she also appreciated it because she's not as short as I am, but she was looking forward to being able to have that step help too. And then when we were at we visited homes in the village. One home, well, I mentioned the intergenerational, so I'm trying to find where that. Anyway, when we were there, the incline was a little steep, and so this was, everyone helped me when I needed it with mobility issues. And she was helping me, making sure I got back up to where the bus was. They sent the bus back to pick me up because it was a little bit difficult on the train getting there. And that kind of fits in with the role of women in Central women. And then because of the increase in the village men migrating to the states to find work, the women have had to take on some new and advanced roles in the community. They need to play the roles of both parents. They need more skills and training to take on more leadership in worship and take over doing what had been the men's responsibilities. In spite of their hardships, we were shown such gracious welcome and hospitality. We were served meals and extra treats during our 2-day visit. The staff at the Lutheran Center is trying to spend more time in the village to help where they can. They are training the women for their new responsibilities. The women are involved in the church and are active in the church council. I brought a gift of frisbees that 2 people where I live made for the kids there. And I brought them during the church council meeting, and they told me to give them to the woman who was kind of in charge of, or who is in charge of the Sunday school. There are other women who have responsibilities on the church council also. I think that's kind of a new move for women there to be able to be more active in things like the church and so on. Both the men and the women who were there were part of the Bible studies, which we mentioned. And then at the women's Bible study, after Pastor Karen had done her asking questions, then Megan, my daughter, who was not able to be here because of illness, she had knit pot holders, scrubbies, and dishcloths. And so then Pastor Karen, after she asked them questions and they answered, and she would hand them one of those items, which they really enjoyed having. At that point, there was a lot of laughing and joking with each other. They were just having such a good time, as I mentioned before. Even with new and added responsibilities, they enjoy each other's company and their interactions together. And that was laughing, joking around, working together on tasks. And I have the feeling that they are there for each other in times of joy and to provide support during challenging times. So I'm just so thankful that I was able to be part of the delegation that went and have this experience. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So then after in the afternoon, they wanted us to see a project that's going on in all of the, or many of the rural communities. And that is to improve their methods of agriculture so that they can grow more crops, different crops, not just rice and beans, and do it more effectively, which would lead to healthier dietary habits, and might even in the end let them earn some money by developing new crops. So we went to visit Antonio, one of the leaders. He had a home on the other side of the village, so to speak, more in the jungle area. And we went to see his garden, where they're using these new techniques. And that's what we're looking at, except that most of the people were looking up in the trees at the monkeys. Because there's a family of monkeys that live there. And we all wanted to see the monkeys. Well, we wanted to hear about the crops too. Okay. But anyway, we're here. There's Diego. You can see him in the back. Antonio is, well, right next to Melissa. He's got a white shirt with blue sleeves. That's Antonio. So we're learning all about crops and things. But we're interested, and we were wondering, why is this tree like this? There's a reason for it. Now you have to listen carefully. You'll get a lecture on cardamom and how it's used. But you'll also hear the sounds of the jungle. Oops, I screwed up. Now, uh-oh, I'm really messed up.
You know, while you look for that, I was going to mention that the other work that Diego is doing is agricultural. He's actually, I believe, he's part of a seed project, but it's also to combat climate change.
Yeah.
Material to grow, but it was too much. It was too humid, so the plant just rotten.
He's inventing a bad smell.
Yeah. It's for soup.
And what?
It's kind of like, it's like the coating of this one, of this caramel, but it's like, it tastes like chicken. Yeah.
I'm sorry, every time they tell us about something that we don't know, it tastes like chicken.
So they open this and it's like a yellow, this one, and they put that into the soup.
To flavor.
Flavor. Well, this is kind of like the same.
Yeah.
But this looks like you get more for your money.
But this is not like a spice. This is a very.
Holy.
This is a good product to have a eat.
It sounds like it'd be a lot of labor, very labor intensive.
Yeah, they need to just take care of that. Nothing grows more than the caramel, so they need to
Howler
start
monkeys
like
are
cleaning.
really
¿Cuántas
loud.
veces
Sounds
limpian
like
el caramel?
lions roaring.
2 veces al año. 2 veces al año, 2 times per year. They have they go.
Okay, so that roar was a monkey. Probably one monkey. Maybe it was more than one. But the interesting thing about howler monkeys is they usually, as I understand it, they travel in packs throughout, through the jungle. They don't stay and live in one place like they are here. So if you're there and a pack of these monkeys comes through, let's say a dozen or more, you got a really loud noise. And if you don't know what that is, you're, well, in big trouble, I guess. So it's fun if you're able to actually hear howler monkeys. And we were. So anyway, there's a picture. You can see some shapes on the left. Over on the right, if you look at that long tree kind of heading up towards the top, you can see one hanging out. There he is, yep. Yeah. So that was fun, hearing them. And we did hear a nice lecture on the crops and everything too. All right, this is Pastor Santos' garden. Who knows about this? I was not there for this.
He was showing us how they're using like banana leaves in between the rows or over the new seeds coming up. They're using banana leaves as compost, so they're trying to enrich the soil and so that they can grow new crops.
Okay, there's that. Don't go away, Melissa, because maybe explain this.
Well, there's a little bit more with that gardening, I'll just take 10 seconds. Things are done in the ways that their ancestors did things. And so it's hard to introduce new sustainable gardening, sustainable agriculture. And people are skeptical. Is it going to work? You know, is it going to give us better yield? So Pastor Santos has this garden and has other sort of projects that he's initiating to try to show people. That's the powerful way to get the message across, to show people that these methods of sustainable agriculture and research in agriculture has given us better ways to grow things.
What was the story of this is bottom out by the river?
Oh, sure, briefly, because I know we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
The floods of the fall were devastating. You see the river way back here. The river came up and washed rocks and silt and soil, river bottom up over the road, which we're standing on, which is even higher. And it will take years for this land to recover its fertility. And all of the rocks, I'm not sure if we have a picture of the rocks that still litter the path and the road, have to be removed by hand. So it's mind-boggling, the kind of work that these people have to do by hand. So the gifts that we brought and the financial donation that Grace made enables them to get more seed to replant once they have land that will grow and support the crops.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we're gonna, well, that's a similar picture.
That was the rocks in the path.
Yeah, oh, that was the rocks,
That's
okay. This is, at the end of the day, we celebrated by having s'mores for everyone, which was really a highlight for all of us. I'm going to, yeah, because we only have a few minutes left, I'm going to take at least 5 though, because the rest of the trip was away from the village. On these trips, we take a few days to sort of become tourists, but it also lets us see what the country is like, getting a better feel for the culture. So this was going to happen on the second part of our trip. So on the Tuesday was a travel day. It was a real rough day. We had to work really hard. So that was a travel. We traveled back to the Lutheran Center in Guatemala City. Then on Wednesday, we got ready to head west to go to a place called Lake Atitlan, which is a gorgeous lake surrounded by volcanoes. But on the way, we could visit a Mayan architectural site, a Mayan ruin. And this is called Ishimche. This particular Mayan ruin is different from the other one we occasionally visit, which is called Tikal. If those of you have been to Tikal, some of you may have, that's a Mayan site that was never destroyed. So all of the temples, all the buildings are still there. This one, from about 1500s or so, was only in place for about 100 years. And when, at the end of that period, it was destroyed, probably by Spaniards coming in. So all you see that are left are the foundations of buildings. But here's a plaza. These big buildings, in each plaza there would be a temple, you might say, a temple to the earth, one to the sun, one to the moon. And so we got a lot of lessons about this. This is Melvin, our guide. He was absolutely wonderful. speaks English like you and I do, and he was very helpful. We are standing at a ball court. Today, lots of football games are going on. They were playing ball back then too. So we're on top of a ball court, which has interesting stories, but we won't go into those now. So that was our visit to Ashimche. Then we went on to Lake Atitlan, and we came there at the end of the day, just about dusk. And this is a view looking out over the lake. And we're looking at, there's actually 3 volcanoes. On the left, it looks like one volcano, but it's actually one in front of the other one. So Volcan Tomalin is in front and Volcan Atitlan is back. And then on the right you see the volcano, that's Volcan San Pedro. And they surround this lake, which is absolutely gorgeous. So on that day, before, that was the Wednesday evening, you have to go shopping. You have to go looking for good deals. And so, I don't know if you guys, did you get a good deal, Lisa?
Lots of good deals.
Yeah, special.
Yes.
Special deal for you. Yeah, so that's where people can do, where did Marge go? I think she headed out to do more shopping. She was the best shopper.
Yes.
Well, so then the next day, on Thursday, this is the view. Get out, walk out in your patio in your hotel. That's what you see. So we're going to get on a boat and go for a boat ride over to this other town. It's going to be about I don't know, 20, 25-minute boat ride. There's the marina, one of them, that we're heading for. On the way, you get views like this. This actually looks like 3 volcanoes, but I think the first one has like 2 hills, and then the Lake Volcan Atitlan is in the back. The short boat ride. So we get to this little town called San Juan, and it's a beautiful small town. They're built on hills, and we're heading for women's co-ops to see how they can thrive in their society. To get there, you have to go up these high hills, so we have rides on tuk-tuks, but I'm not showing that here. These are the little motorcycle things. But here, this is a women's co-op for fabric. I'll show the video, and then you guys can comment.
Oh, I hope you did a video wrong.
You gotta start with cotton.
Y lo vas poniendo las manos así, vas subiendo y empezas de nuevo.
You roll the cone, like this side, and then you go up to make
Lo
more.
importante
And then roll it, and then roll it.
Oh,
okay. And so up.
La concentración tiene que tener.
Any thoughts on this?
It's an art and I couldn't do it. Yeah, we started out picking up the seeds in the cotton, and then you would just hold the cotton, small bits, and then it just kind of, will leave your hand if you keep it loose.
And
But
keep spinning the, whatever the thing is called that holds the cotton
Yeah.
thread with the other hand. So this is a thing where you're doing 2 hands, but you wish you had at least 3,
Yeah.
maybe 4.
And it said they work how many hours a day? Was it like 8 to 10?
What else did they show you at this place?
oh my.
One super interesting part of it is they showed us how they dye the thread, all the different colors, and so they have a variety of different plants like leaves and roots and whatnot, and just the knowledge behind if you pick this plant when it's a full moon, then you're gonna get this color, and if it's not, if it's a different phase of the moon, then it's gonna be a little bit different color, and just so much knowledge that's been passed down generation, and then when you see them doing all this by hand, it's amazing.
A lot of this was from the Mayan culture too. They learned from what the Mayans did many years ago.
Yeah, they went all the way through making the threads and weaving it, and then, of course, you can go buy their products
We did some shopping.
at the gift shop. So, but that was interesting. We also,
I don't know if there are any pictures of this, but basically, they're down, the women go down on their knees, they strap this thing behind them, and this is this loom. And they work on it 8 to 9 hours a day for 7 days, I think is what she said, to make one of these. Just one. And the small amount that we pay for this is 1 week's worth of wages for them. And that's not taking into consideration any of the cost that they have to get the material that they use to weave these. And to me, that was just incredible. And the woman who you were seeing here explaining to Kathy about working with it, she was incredible. And what she said was, you do all your chores at home, you cook everything, you take care of everything at home, and then you go to work. So basically, you worked your day at home to then go to work for all these hours. Again, being down on your knees, I mean, I can't even do it, but crunched back, sitting on the floor like that for that long. It's just amazing to me. We look at what our wages are here and what we have to do for them, and I was in awe. And you think about this, I don't know if they ended up being $50 worth, like $400 in their money, so about $50 in our money. That's it for a full week's worth of work.
Okay, so we went to a couple of other co-ops. One where they use honey, and they make all kinds of products with honey. And then on the right, there was a medicinal plants.
Yeah.
And you could have anything you want cured from the medicinal plants. I'm joking a little bit. We returned back to the Lutheran Center. This is at the Lutheran Center, because on the last day, we'll go quickly here, we visited the Milagro Center. This is right where the Lutheran Center is. And this is the live-in home for about a dozen young women from the rural community.
They have 16 to 18 right now.
15 to 18 of them, and their ages are from like 12 to 19.
Yeah.
And they spend, except for the summer, they spend time there. They go to school away from the Milagro Center, but they learn many things. So this is one way that women are being empowered. Their alternative is to stay in the village and become married at 13 or 14 years old.
So,
Then we went, I'm sorry.
hold on. So, I wrote up something, but I won't get into it because I know we're short on time. Compulsory education through 6th grade. That's it, in Guatemala. In Guatemala City, in some of the urban areas, education system is quite respectable, but for the kids in the rural areas, a lot of the girls don't go through 6th grade, and if they do, after that, they are married, they are having babies, and their lives will largely consist of having babies, many of them, raising children, and taking care of the house. And so this Milagro Center for up to 15 is what they told me, girls, middle school and high school girls, can really make a difference in the lives of not just those women, but their families and then their communities when they return. And this was just a beautiful thing. It was so cool. In a country that is where many of the systems, political, the government, education, healthcare, are corrupt. And I mean, I'm a pretty strong feminist, and I'm not blaming everything on men. But those systems are patriarchal. The Catholic Church, which is 90% of the country actively practicing Catholic, it's a whole Catholic Church, and I can say this, I think, because I was raised Catholic, and I know that system. I was very Catholic, and it's very patriarchal. And to see women being empowered was a total surprise. I was not expecting it. But these co-ops, the schools, this Colegio CLAG, Colegio Luterana Agustina de Guatemala, CLAG, is an absolutely fabulous, exciting place for the children who come and who don't want to leave at the end of the day. And a lot of these kids will work before they come to school. And then they will walk. We heard about one child who walks 2 miles to get to school after he's worked with his parents at home or whatever the family business is. So it was so exciting and so inspirational. It was really cool. Sorry.
Well,
Carry
thank
on.
you, because that was a very nice conclusion to our, this is the new church that we've been helping to fund. New school, I'm sorry, new school, up to 6th grade. This is in Guatemala City, about, I don't know, a half hour from our Lutheran Center. So, I think that's it. Now, there's one announcement. Oh, there's announcements on the table for the chili cook-off. Yeah, okay, you know about that. Here's the thinking, here's our planning. Our covenant says we go every other year. So we're going to visit them again in 2025. But we're thinking about doing that in the spring of 2025. So more like a year and a half from now. Start thinking about going. It's going to be wonderful.
There you go.
So even though it's an hour, a year and a half away, planning will begin soon, and it's a great experience. Thank you for taking all this time. I know we packed a lot of it into this.
Are there questions?
Yeah, are there questions? We'll hang out, unless you're having a birthday party to go to. We'll hang out and talk if you have questions. Okay? Thank you.